Hello, my name is Kristian Roberts, and I'm the Director of Education for the Dallas Opera. Basically, what that means is that we bring opera out into schools, and we bring schools to us at the Winspear Opera House. There's a lot more to it than that, but that is the basic gist of what I do. We can get into more of that a little bit later on.
And my name is Quodicia Johnson, or Quo Johnson. I'm the Education and Company Culture Manager for the Dallas Opera. And I, along with Kristian, we thank you for joining us for taking the stage with Kristian and Quo. Thank you for joining us and giving us your time.
Now, Quo, everybody knows, I just explained a little bit about what education does and sort of what we do with schools and such, but there's another part of your title that we need to discuss that I think people need to get a little insight on. So what exactly does company culture entitle? What does that mean?
Absolutely. So I get that question a lot because it's not something that is often given kind of attention, if you will, definitely not so much so for an entire position. So company culture, or organizational culture, as some people may know of it, is just the collective and agreed upon actions, behaviors, belief of an organization. So if the mission is the heartbeat of the organization, I'd say that the company culture is kind of the bloodline, the veins, and everything else that helps make it happen. So company culture informs how we go about doing our mission. Company culture informs how we engage with each other. It informs what we believe is necessary to get the organization where it needs to be concerning mission, in a
And
sense.
oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, I'm so sorry. But is there any way that that the world of the two, so that education and company culture, have you seen them tie together in any kind of ways that would be interesting? Just any ways like that?
Yes. And so because of my particular work with company culture with the Dallas Opera, it is looking at equity. It is looking at ensuring that we are creating a positive work environment. It is making sure that we are being the group or the organization that we want to be. And with that requires certain types of education in the different structures of organization, in the different methods and the different styles of engagement between coworkers, psychological safety, and other aspects that go into the workplace. Because of my work with equity, it does require a lot of education in doing that, because we're so used to running organizations a certain way that we don't often look at how can we change this to make it the best place for us to provide our best work, and that requires education.
Very cool. Okay, because it's one of the things that we always talk about as, we're both lifelong learners. It's been one of my big pushes. I know I'm constantly wanting to learn something new, constantly trying to figure out how to put it into my life and better my life and better the lives of others. So I was just curious to have you explain that a little bit, because I need people to understand that as an education team, we don't just, and as a company, we don't just look at education as being in one certain type of bucket. There are several different kinds of education, and there are several different educational styles, both formal and informal. So let's talk a little bit about the purpose of this particular show. I mean, what do we want to tell the people about taking the stage with Kristian and Quo?
We're taking over. The revolution will not be televised. For real. It'll be on Instagram. No.
And Facebook.
And Facebook and TDO Network. What we are wanting to do is kind of provide a space so that we can have meaningful conversations. Right. And so that we can have conversations that talk about what we're dealing with right now, what we're dealing with in the arts, what we're dealing with the pandemic, what we're dealing with on a regular basis, on a different basis, and then create those meaningful conversations and then invite other people into those conversations so that we can find solutions together, or collective solutions, as we call it.
Right. I was thinking about this question myself, and we asked the question, well, why does this show exist? And I jokingly said COVID-19, but we know that it is not a joke. It is nothing to be laughing about right now. It's not a laughing matter at all. And but it did sort of push us into this sort of digital age, and there was this sort of shift and this platform that was given to us. So we thought it was very important that we talk about that portion of it. Some of the things we were talking about as far as what to expect and what to see in the upcoming episodes, just in the coming weeks about what we're doing. There are a lot of topics that we are going to cover. You know, we're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about representation in the arts. We're going to talk about, well, one of the
Coping,
big topics
right?
is coping, just coping about how we're going to get through this, what happens after this.
Right. And I'd say going beyond coping into conquering, right? How
Yes,
do we get to the point where we use this as a momentum for us to be able to change how we come out of this? So many people are like, we
absolutely.
want to go back to normal. And I understand that normal is comforting, but normal was not great for everybody.
It was
And we're
not.
now in a shift where it's not great for a lot of people. So hopefully we can work together to come out of this better than the way we went into this pandemic. So.
I agree. I believe we can use this to have as difficult as it may be right now. I believe that some great things can come out of this if we really truly dig deep and look for solutions together.
Yeah, and that's what
So
we're
yeah,
doing.
I think
We're digging
that's
deep. We're asking the hard questions. We're looking for solutions to
asking the hard,
it all.
definitely asking the hard questions. So we talked about, when we were first approached to do this show and we were asked to do this. And, the question, became, well, why are we doing this? Why are we personally doing this? Why are we personally interested in doing this? So, why? I'll let you answer the question first. Like, why are you interested in doing this show?
I enjoy engaging with people, but I also enjoy getting to truth in a way that is healing, in a way that is productive, in a way that reduces harm, if that makes sense. This provides us with an opportunity to address issues that we have in opera, issues that we have in the arts, issues that we have kind of just in social economic statuses. And with this, it gives us a platform to do that in a way that hopefully provides some type of energy, right? Some type of joy, some type of laughable something, but at the same time that engages other people to join in, right? To invite people at the table, to call people in so that we can find those solutions together. So tell
I
me why
agree.
you are interested.
I tell you why I'm interested. For me, it comes from the way I've always tried to inform my work in education and in working with our partners and in just working with people in general. People often say, how on earth, why on earth? I mean, opera. I get that look sometimes, and I go, well, that's just a vehicle, and I get that look for more than one reason, and we all know what one of the big ones is, but we'll just leave it at that. But that's a conversation for another time. But yes, it is very much for me. I'm interested in doing it because I've worked with teachers for years. I have talked to parents. I have seen so much out around our own the DFW Metroplex. I've talked to people on an international scale, on a national scale, our counterparts at other companies, and everybody is trying to work to find solutions right now and figure how we make this shift, and how we make this shift and make sure that it's substantial and make sure that it is meaningful, that it is
Sustainable, right?
sustainable and of a quality that we can walk away and say we've done something with this. So I think for me the biggest reason I wanted to do this show is just because it's about trying to make change and trying to find solutions and trying to transform things and move things forward, progress things forward in a way that's productive and that is healthy, and that is balanced and fair for all involved.
All right. With that and understanding why we both chose to participate in this show, what are some of your kind of desired outcomes? What do you want people to get from this show?
I would like them to respond to us. I would like to see the comment section become a section of resources for right now, particularly for COVID, but also community sort of resources and teacher resources and parent resources and anything that can be helpful. I would also like it to be just a place where people can come and talk about some of the things that are tied into the topics and tell us what they would like to hear us address next. If and just sort of those sorts of things. I want it to be a conversation where people feel like they can actually have a conversation and can come and say something, and that their opinion and their thoughts will be valued. I don't think there's enough of that in the world, a true amount of that in the world. So I'm hoping that we see some of that. What about you?
I am wanting, of course, I already talked about how much I love engagement, but I'm wanting to be able to provide a space where people can spark some type of innovation, some type of reality, and some type of acceptance and acknowledgement of the truth of where we are in this nation, where we are in opera, where we are in the arts, and then understanding that we can take that so much further. So I'm wanting, again, the revolution will not be televised, but I'm
Yeah,
wanting to make sure that we're voicing those issues and doing so in a way that is honoring others, and doing so in a way that allows us to move other things aside so that real solutions can come about, so that real action can come about. And if nothing else, at least to get people to think about different things, different ways, different perspectives, in a way, again, that is healing, in a way that is positive. And then, as you said, kind of providing resources, but also wanting to provide some light throughout this week whenever people come and join with us.
absolutely. I agree with you in that. I think having a positive experience amongst so much negativity. Even before we were in this, I would hear people all the time say, oh, there's just so much negativity, so much bad happening in the world. And I get that, and I don't ever want to take away from that. But it's like you said, being solution oriented, collective solution oriented, is the thing. And I think we have to make room for that. So I'm very happy we get to do this, and I'm looking forward to see what comes next.
So with
So,
what comes next, how can people continue to engage with us? Like, what does that look like?
well, TDO Network. It is TDO Network. We are on social media platforms. We are going to be on Instagram, of course, on Facebook. You're probably watching this on there right now. But that is how you can engage with us. And of course, like I said, hit those comment sections. We want to hear from you. I think we also need to understand, a lot of people say, is opera for me?
Right.
Is it for me? There may be some people asking them, is this the show for me? So, Quo, can you kind of address, is this the show for them?
I'm gonna say yes, and that may be biased, but that depends. If you're wanting to come and see real conversations, if you're wanting to participate in real conversations, if you're wanting an opportunity to kind of conquer, right, what we're going through. But if you're wanting to do all of those things in a way that provides us a platform through opera, because opera does have the ability to do that. I mean, look at me.
Absolutely.
Look at us.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we know
We'll
this.
break it down for you, right? If you're curious about what you're doing, we'll break it down for you. If you're bored and you want to tune in, we will break it down for you. But if you're seeking that question, that voice, that answer, that yes, finally they're talking about it, we're here for you. So people can expect those things and that type of engagement from us concerning whether or not opera is for us. And then I'll always defer to you, of course, as the aficionada. But as far as opera is concerned, because it is this combination of so many art forms, we always tell people there's something about opera for you, right? There's always something in opera, there's always something in the production, the creation, the exploration, the performance, the viewing of opera that will speak to someone. But what we're wanting to make sure we do in this show is make sure that we provide the opportunity for opera to actually meet those standards, and provide the opportunity for
Yes.
opera to meet that for everyone and not just a specific group.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My thoughts on that are very similar to yours. I've always said, people, like I said, people look at me like I'm crazy for more than one reason about being in this art form, but it's not the only one I like. It just happens to be the vehicle that I'm using for the work that I'm interested in. And so, I've always said opera is this, like I said, it's a combination of all the art forms, but what it also does, it gives us a chance to teach about things. You know, part of the work we do in education is tying opera into the classroom in very clever ways. We tie it to every subject matter. We tie it into STEM, which needs to become STEAM. And I hope we see that more and more, because if you don't think that what's happening backstage or just within the human body is science, technology, engineering, and math, that STEM we use to create this art that is called opera, I got another thing for you.
Quick plug. That's going to be in another episode. Don't worry. If you're curious about what she just said, we'll explain it. It's okay.
We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But my point is that, you know, there are a lot of things being tied in the classroom. There's a lot of things being tied into the workforce, you know, the future workforce, which is now, you know, that we need to be discussing. And I think in that way, opera can be utilized in that way too. I believe the show can be utilized in that way too, to show, to open up different doors and maybe introduce something somebody didn't know about, you know. And then if you said, you know what, I'm glad you told me about it. That was so fabulous. It was wonderful. You know so much. It's still not for me. I respect that.
Yeah.
I can respect that.
Absolutely. We have to.
Yes.
And in doing this, could you also, we spoke about it a bit earlier, some of the things that people can expect, but could you talk about some of the things you hope people want us to touch on, right?
I think I'm hoping I want people, I want to know, I think for me, that's why I said, I think the comment section is going to be a big deal for us, because I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know, you know, what's going on with you. I think during a time like this, people need a space. It's like you said, it's creating a space for these kind of conversations, and realizing that while we do have COVID-19 going on, there are other things that are still going on, that have still been going on in our society, that we need to address and we need to discuss. And opera is not immune to that. The arts are not immune to that as a whole. Our society is not immune to any of that. So I think that is my biggest thing, is that I think I want people to be okay with engaging that way. And of course, let me be very clear, respectful. Because we're going to be respectful. We'll be truthful, but we will be respectful. And I think I can speak for you on that too. We always try to be truthful and respectful, because to me, you get nowhere by not at least coming from a mutual place of respect. And I think that'll be one of the topics that we cover a little later on in one of our episodes, on forming a foundation and a ground of terms that everybody can and definitions of different terms, so that everybody is starting sort of on the same page,
so we
coming to this work.
Together. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So meeting people where they are and then moving us all forward together.
Absolutely.
And even with that, some of those topics and what we're hearing may seem a bit heavy right now. So how do we respond to that? Or how do we address those fears?
I think that what we have to realize is that there's room. And sometimes if you don't feel like you can talk about that, that's where self-care comes in. And we'll talk about that some more. Sometimes there's a conversation that you're not ready to engage with. You know, there's sometimes where you have to step away. And I think that's something that each individual has to figure out for themselves. I think you have to be very cognizant of that. It takes a certain amount of self-awareness and societal awareness. So I don't fault anybody if they're not ready to have these conversations. But if there are people who are ready to have these conversations and want us to bring some things to the table, because we will be bringing things to the table, it might get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But what I would like is to make sure that in us doing this, again, that it is healing space, that it is solution oriented, that it's respectful. I think that's the biggest thing that I will continue to go back to, is that it is done with respect to everybody that's involved.
And so one of the things I know we're wanting to make sure that we create in this space is a courageous space, right? So that when we do should we get into a situation where topics seem a bit difficult, we want to encourage everybody to have that courage to be able to continue to participate. Of course, within your own safety, but not to shy away from conflict so much as to lean into that discomfort or to lean in into finding that solution. Again, we're not going to take up your time so that we can just be extremely negative. But in
Yeah,
some of the things, if we're going to find those solutions, then we have to acknowledge that there is an issue and that there's a need for a solution. But what we
absolutely.
always want to make sure that we do is end on a positive note, always, not forced
Yes.
positivity, but actual truth in how we approach these things positively.
we,
So you
we, we
can
don't,
always set
let's
the
be clear, we don't do toxic positivity
oh
around
yeah.
here. I'm sorry, Cole, I just had to
No, it's
interject on
okay.
that. We don't do toxic positivity around here. We are very aware of the reality of things, and that's why she was very, very clear about the kind of positivity that we're going to be bringing.
Yeah, not to get
Okay, cool.
along and everybody be friends, just to be no. We're gonna talk about it, and then we can actually, get along. We talk about it. We're gonna get along.
Mhm.
Um, And in that, another thing, so just letting you all know that we will always make sure that we end on a positive note, because that's how we will continue to conquer the day. That's how we'll continue to have the energy to be mindful, to connect with other people on a human level throughout the day and throughout the rest of your week and throughout the rest of your time. So we'll always end on a positive note. But we will also end with an opportunity for you to continue to engage with us, for an opportunity for you to continue to ask questions, to continue to seek those collective solutions, for you to continue to consider how other people are viewing an issue, or how other people are using their own personal perspective as well as their lived experiences. Kristian, you want to tell them a bit more about how they can continue to do that?
Well, I'd say again, I think you can of course follow us on our own Instagram pages. You can continue to engage with us over TDO Network. That's what this platform is for. I think that I am open to personal messages, provided again that they are respectful. I know that's difficult, it can be difficult sometimes in the world of social media.
Yes.
But even if you have something, that you feel like you need to say, there are plenty of people that feel like they need to do that. But I think in terms of joining the conversation, I think that's what our comment sections are for. I think that's what looking at our personal Instagram messaging is for. I personally am open to that if there is a question. Again, we want to be a resource too, and a place where resources can be amassed. So I that's the way to connect. Quo, you got anything on that?
Ditto to what she said. Please do engage in the conversation, right? So this taking the stage with Kristian and Quo is us taking over the stage, right? We are going through the process of getting on stage, to saying the hard questions, to asking the hard questions and giving the answers or seeking those answers. And that includes you. We are inviting you to join us on this stage. So we want you to engage. We want you to join in with us. We want you to ask us questions, give us your comments, tell us what you think, what you'd like to hear, and what you'd like to see. And with that, I think we want to give a final shout out to TDO. Shout out to the Dallas Opera. And we will see y'all later. Thank you for giving us your time. All right.
Yes, thank you for joining us. All right. Have a good rest of the day.